What's up, everybody? Listen. You've been here before. You know what to do. Hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite Average Good podcast. Call what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Tony Meola and not Charlie Davies. To the surprise of absolutely no one, he is not here, Big Tones. I don't know where he is. He says he's coaching. I want to put air quotes around that. But I've seen him coach. I'm just kidding. He's going to be a good coach. I'm excited for him. But he's got a camp, I think, going on, and I'm sad that we didn't get asked to be a part of it. But
it's a striker camp, Jimmy. It's a striker camp. Yes. So we
right.
should be scoring goals in about 12 years' time.
Yeah,
we should be scoring a lot of goals in the Northeast somewhere.
That's right. 2038 World Cup. Me and Big Tone is going to be on the roster. It's going to be absolutely amazing. All right, well, welcome into the show. We have a big preview for you. U.S. men's national team into the semifinals in the 17 of the last 18 Gold Cups and 13 straight since 2000. So in some ways, had we not made it here, that would have been a big shock. We're taking on Guatemala, though. That is a big shock. They beat Guatemala. Excuse me, didn't beat themselves. Maybe they'll do that in the semifinal. They beat Canada, but they had a man advantage the whole time. How much do we have to take that into consideration when we're evaluating how good this Guatemala team is, Big Tones?
Well, so it's obviously the second half, right? It happened right in stoppage time of the first half was Schaffelberg's second yellow card. I suppose you take it into consideration, but you can still look at when you watch that game and you could look at the quality of some of the players and look at I think most importantly, the attitude. What I got out of it was they saw blood in the water for a little bit. Right. And the door was open. And in this case, it was a red card and they all of a sudden jumped on it. Right. So I think we can certainly take that. This is kind of uncharted territory for them. Right. And they have an opportunity now. I would think in their minds, they already slayed a giant in the tournament. And now you're thinking to yourself, okay, we got another giant coming in, but I can take care of business here. And if I were them, that's how I would be thinking about it. Having said that, they made no mistake about that second half, who the more dominant side was. Was there going to be opportunities for Canada? Yeah, no doubt. They have good enough players to get at you on the counterattack. Their goalkeeper did really well. Defensively, they were pretty sound. They were hard. And I don't know. I was trying, Jimmy, you probably do the same thing in your head. Try and put yourself in the camp, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're sitting around the conversations at the dinner table, the conversations in your room, the conversations when you're on the bus. And I would think they feel pretty confident right now that, hey, this is house money for them, right? Like, why not just go and have a go at the U.S. and a U.S. team that they probably look at and say it's a depleted side. Anything can happen. Yeah, they're vulnerable, no doubt. Right. So if I were them, I would be confident in this game.
Okay, so Guatemala currently ranked 106th internationally by FIFA. What's interesting, and we haven't really discussed this in any previous podcast, mainly because we haven't really had to focus on Guatemala, but they had to actually go into Gold Cup qualifiers to get into the tournament, and they narrowly defeated Guyana over 2 legs, 4-3. Once here, they beat Jamaica 1-0. That's where I thought they put everybody on notice. Big Tones, like, okay, all right, Guatemala's got a little game to them. Beat the Reggae Boys 1-0. Then they lost to Panama 1-0. So that was a close game. Obviously, Panama was one of the favorites before they got upset by Honduras. And then they had to beat Guadeloupe 3-2 in the final group stage game to book their ticket before getting past Canada in the game that you were discussing in the quarterfinals. And they had to survive their own penalty shootout because they had a chance to win it on the 5th kick. They missed that one. And then it had to go to 7 for them to ultimately get through. All right, let's talk a little bit about our team before we can get into more of the nuts and bolts of Guatemala. And I really want to focus on Matt Freese. The guy's red hot right now. And I don't know if you saw his interview after the game, but he was just kind of mellow. I was like, all right, man, he got it all out on the fields. He got nothing much more else to say energy-wise. Maybe he's just tired and sapped, and that's probably where I would be as well post-game after being the hero. But he said, penalties are my thing. And when we looked at his record, when we were talking during our watch-along, we'll have another watch-along tomorrow, so make sure you come back and join us for that, either on the Golasso Network or on the Golasso America YouTube channel. The we said that in what he had only saved 3 in 17 attempts in MLS for NYCFC. Not the best track record, but when we started to do a little bit more homework, he's actually pretty good in shootouts, and he's got a really good record on that side of things.
Yeah, and keep in mind during MLS Next Pro, he's had moments in there. So these numbers include that. Yeah, so in game, it doesn't necessarily reflect, penalties are my thing. But in shootouts, it does. And shootouts are a little bit different than penalty kicks. In general, during a game, you're facing the number one penalty kick taker, right, of the opposition. So I think it probably favors the shooter a little bit more. In penalty kick shootouts, you're generally going to face that guy and some other guys that maybe aren't as good, if you will, although some of them probably take penalty kicks in their club teams. But you have a chance as a goalkeeper to kind of set things up. I mean, you tell me. I've only taken one penalty kick in my career, although I think I've taken more penalty kicks than any of my teammates combined based on what goalkeepers do. If you're, let's say, Jimmy, you're the fourth kicker, right? Fourth. It doesn't make, it could be, you're the fourth kicker. And Matt Freese, or the goalkeeper, has dove right 3 times, or to your left. He's dove to the goalkeeper's right 3 times in a row. Now you start thinking, what would you think when you went up there? Would you think about where the goalkeeper went? I would imagine so.
I would take that into consideration, 100%.
Yeah, so now whatever your strength is, say you go that way, that's your or you go the other way. You're still thinking, like, does he do the 4th time? Does he go the other way this time, which happens to be my strength? Like, do I go down the middle? I love the Calvo thing, and I love that Tony Jimenez was involved in that whole decision to stay down the middle. And if you remember during the broadcast, I said to you, and you and Chuck, I said, somebody's going down the middle.
You're right.
You got to figure out who that guy is, right? You got to figure out, and in this case, they figured out the right guy that was going down the middle, and it worked out. Like, Matt Freese didn't even think about diving in that one. He was literally, on his toes, waiting for that ball to come down the middle, and made a really easy play once you make the right decision. So my point for telling you all this is penalty kicks are a little bit different than a one-off in the game, right?
Right.
And yes, so because things are being set up, right? I think in general, shooters, there's no real pattern. It's not like the coach says, Jimmy, Charlie, Tony, all you guys, you do one thing, you shoot to the right. No, that's not how that works. But a goalkeeper can determine which way he goes. And I think, other than the first one against his teammate, Alonso Martinez, I think is the only one he didn't come close to in that penalty kick shootout.
Right.
If I remember correctly.
Well, what's interesting is the in-game, when Francisco Calvo scored to make it 1-0, he actually guessed the right way and almost got there. So if you add that into the equation, he guessed right on, 6?
So what's Calvo thinking at that point?
Yeah.
That's my spot, man. And he almost, if I don't hit it perfect, I'm in trouble here, right? That's what he had. I mean, I would imagine he's thinking some of that, right? Now he's an experienced player, but it has to go through your head.
100%. And what's interesting too, a little fun fact about Matt Freese, when he was in college at Harvard, he this is a quote from him. I actually did a very long research project in college about penalty kicks. To be able to rely on that type of thing and deal with a lot of statistics and stuff like that, read the game, read their hips and things like that is massive. So I'd
like to see that.
I'd like to see that project too. And I have plenty of time for any players that are students of the game, right? Trying to find any advantages they can to try to get better at it. And when we look at Matt Freese now over the 4 games, obviously it's going to be a big boost of confidence for him, and knowing he can be relied upon and trusted is important, not only by the coaching staff, by your teammates as well. I feel like he's made all the saves that he should make. Even the second goal that we gave up, not much he could do. He made the first initial save, and the reactions of the defenders around him were not good. And Costa Rica did a better job of that. Overall, I think he's been steady, right? I mean, one of the things that we talk about with his competition, Matt Turner, is that Matt Turner's an excellent shot stopper. No denying that. It was his feet that always had a little bit of a knock. And maybe sometimes recently he's been making saves, giving up the rebounds that maybe he shouldn't give up, and he just hasn't been as sharp. But Matt Freese comes in and I think has been really good on the little details of the position, right? And coming out off of his line to grab stuff when he should, right? When we see sometimes you see goalkeepers, and you can talk about this more expertly than I can, but they sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't, and then that lack of that indecision then creates indecision for the center backs that are in front of them, and that just there's like a ripple effect. But when you come out and you're consistent in your decision making all the time, there's a nice steadiness to that. And I think he continues to grow in his presence, which is another big attribute, I think, to a goalkeeper, which is probably going to make him even talk louder and communicate more and give more energy, right? So there's all these little things that I think are building that could lead to Matt Freese really being our number one moving forward.
What it does, Jimmy, is maybe you don't talk louder or talk anymore. The people receiving the information are reacting to, because maybe you don't change your personality. And he looks like, I get to cover him in the league. And last year I had like 4 games. I was surprised he didn't make the MLS All-Star team last year. This year, okay, I was surprised again, but I don't think he gets enough recognition, maybe because he is a little bit quieter, and there's not really a lot. I wouldn't call him flashy in any way, right? It's like he just steady in doing his job. But what I found at the end of my career, I hate talking about my career, but you brought this up, and it just no.
Bring it up all the time. It's awesome.
No. But okay, so you're an example. You came towards the latter part of my career. I assume that you thought when I gave you information, like I was giving you information from knowledge, right? I was trying to put you in the right spot. My goal was selfish, if I'm being honest. I'm like, man, if I could put all these guys in the right spot,
of course,
I'm not going to have anything to do. Like I'm going to hang. I got to play till I'm 50, right?
That's the perfect game from a goalkeeper's position. That's the perfect game. And I learned from that, Tones, because as a center back, I was also trying to put people in good spots,
right,
to make the game predictable and easy for me too.
So I think what it does when you have confidence in your goalkeeper, not only does it give you confidence that, from a defender standpoint and a team standpoint in general, hey, if 10 of us make a mistake, like we got one last line that can kind of figure it out for us, right? That can get the job done. I will say this, good shot stopper. I imagine, and again, I'm not in the meeting room. Obviously, I'm not at training. The Alonso Martinez goal, he made the first save, but I bet he's going to probably ask himself to do more with that save instead of leave the rebound where it was. Now, it's not one that you blame the goalkeeper for by any stretch of the imagination, right? It's a quick shot, but I bet if you want to nitpick at that level, you're like, okay, I got to push that one out for a corner, right? Or I got to give that rebound where in line with a defender, like if I think there was a defender closer to the line, like that's where it's got to end up at one of my players' feet, so that maybe they can clear it, or maybe they can put the ball out. But that's being critical at the highest level, right? That's like not accepting anything short of perfection, and then you keep working on it. So, yeah, I think he's in a good moment. I like the fact that there's a conversation about who the number one is. I don't know how it ends up. We're in July, so a little bit less than a year from now, Jimmy. I don't know how it ends up, but I think we're in a better spot if we have 2 or 3 guys fighting for that position, right? And I would imagine in like 6 months, Mauricio Pochettino and his guys are going to say, this is our guy. And whoever that is, they're going to roll with. There's still, I do think there's part of this chapter that's going to be continued once Matt Turner finds his spot. I've said this before, and he will have a say in the conversation in the end.
So I saw some comments about the howler that Matt Freese had against Haiti, right? Where he doesn't do well with a back pass that's coming at him, a little bit of a hot potato back pass, but either way, the guy's a professional playing for the national team. He's got to be able to manage it, and that leads to Haiti's goal. I do think there's a lot of layers to that are important in this process. One is that he's allowed to make a mistake and still be trusted, right? That he can fight his way through that. And we obviously come back and win the Haiti game and manage that situation. And he's been good. When I look at just that, felt like an anomaly there to what we've seen from Matt Freese throughout this tournament. And so the fact that he got trusted now allowed him to step up and respond in the Costa Rica game. And obviously we could sit here and say he was probably man of the match, right? So I thought it was nice for him to have a moment of maybe stepping back so he could have that opportunity to take 2 steps forward. And he took it with both hands. And obviously, he's going to be pivotal at some point. Against Guatemala, we're going to need him to make the timely save. And, of course, if we can get past them and into the final, he's going to have to do it there as well. And so this is a big opportunity. These next 2 games are big for everybody. And so before we get into the full-blown lineup, I know we're coming upon our first break, but there's a poll question that we threw up. Who should start at left back? We're just going to dive into this before we hit that break. Max Arfsten or John Tolkin. Now, I went back and watched a lot of our sequences on both sides of the ball. And more beyond extended highlights. And I've decided that Max Arfsten would probably be a hell of a winger for us. That guy finds himself in good
We said
spots.
we had no wingers in camp.
I know. I actually do think we have a winger in camp, and I know that we do because he plays there on either side, left or right for Columbus Crew, and it doesn't play a lot of straight up left back. So I guess it depends on who we're matching up against in whether it's Guatemala or whoever else. But Max Arfsten is excellent at getting forward and getting something positive, getting crosses off, looking to combine. Obviously scored his first goal right out of halftime against Costa Rica. He finds himself in good spots. So yes, even though I'm disappointed in some of his defensive decision making, on the attacking side, I'm like, this guy's good, and I like watching him play. I'll raise my hand. I really like watching him play going forward. But that he's a liability right now for us defensively, and we've seen it in multiple games, and that gives me some concern. So I'm using that as context because Johnny Tolkin obviously can whip in a good ball too, finds himself in good spots. He might not be the same. Definitely is not in terms of attacking wise, Max Arfsten. But defensively, he could be a little bit more solid, a little bit more, I guess it depends on the asks. But I think we're asking Max Arfsten to be somebody that he's not. And I wonder if we're going to address that. So who would you start in this game?
Well, I'm just listening to your breakdown. Like if I didn't know Max Arfsten, say I never saw him play.
Yeah.
And you told me, you said he's a liability defensively.
Right.
I'm old school, right?
Right.
Like for me, defenders have to defend first and all the other stuff happens positively. For years we said Anthony Robinson, can he play left back? You go back 5 years ago and we're like, holy cow, he's great going forward, a little bit of a liability. All of a sudden he becomes a really good defender, understanding positions. Serginho Dest was in that conversation. And I still see people saying, Serginho, all he does is go forward. He loves going forward, but he has really improved defensively, right? So that's been a comment from every guy that has scouted him. So you look at it and go, okay, what do you want as a group? When you play with 3 in the back, I'm talking about three center backs, and that guy, maybe you can have a little bit of deficiency defensively because you got a little bit more cover. But for me, if you're playing with 4 in the back, you can't have guys that are deficient. Mac, I think it was you that said like something to the effect the other night, like, what a game Max had. He was involved in every single goal, some good, some bad. And I don't know that you can live with that kind of stat line, if you will, Jimmy, at the highest level.
I agree.
Like, it's great. We got to talk about it, right? Because he was involved in all 4 goals. But in the World Cup, let's go back. If that's 2022, can you live with that against the Netherlands, that you're involved in that many sort of plays? No, you got to be really, really good. That part has to clean up. I think that this all started with who starts at left back, Tolkin or we were told that Tolkin, right, because of the month prior to this, he was off. His team was done already, that he was growing into fitness. I would not be surprised to see Tolkin, nor would I be surprised to see Max Arfsten. My gut tells me that what Pochettino has done historically here for however many months, 8 months, 9 months, whatever it's been. I shouldn't do live math here, but that he stays with Arfsten, because when you talk about our back 4 or back 3 in Anthony Robinson, he hasn't made very many changes in camp. So either one, I would not be surprised in the lineup.
Yeah. Listening to my own breakdown, or you repeating my breakdown, Tolkin seems like the obvious choice for defensive purposes. Let's lock that side of the ball down first, and then you can bring once the game opens up and it's clear that we have some advantages or want to create some advantages, or we need whatever the situation may be. Maybe Max Arfsten would be a better choice in the 60th minute, right? When our opponent is a little bit more tired, and then his attacking prowess becomes even more influential and impactful. but we do need a little bit more solidity, I would say, on that side, especially as we get closer and closer to the final. There's a good comment here from Jahir Vasquez, who says, if Arfsten is getting cooked by Central American nations as a defender, what does that look like on the world stage?
That's what I just brought up, right? Against the Netherlands. Yeah.
Or even we saw it against Switzerland. He got cooked by Switzerland. So we don't even need to see. So Jahir, yes, he got cooked against Costa Rica, got cooked against Switzerland. I think we have more than enough sample size to know that. I don't know if he's an out-and-out left back. I still think maybe Max Arfsten is going to be better used as a winger. All right, we're going to take our first break of Call What You Want. When we come back, we're going to take a deeper dive into Guatemala and where they can potentially hurt us. So do not go anywhere.
Personally, I don't like playing against friends that much because you want to just lock in and go into game mode, but you know these guys and they're obviously going to want to talk to you. You got stuff you want to talk to them about, and obviously once the whistle blows, it's go time. So yeah, I go way back with a lot of these guys. Matt Freese, I was with him in the U23s. I mean, Tyler Adams, U20s. Diego Luna, I was with him in Salt Lake. So yeah, very familiar with the majority of guys on that team. And, I mean, it's going to be a fun one. It really is. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, that is Aaron Herrera, who once played for the U.S., then made the switch to Guatemala, born in New Mexico. He has had a good career. 28-year-old, plays for DC United, played at Real Salt Lake, as he mentioned, with Diego Luna, and had some time with Matt Freese and Tyler Adams. He is going to be up for this one. Given the energy that he had against Canada, he seemed to be up for the Canada game as well. There's another player, too. We got Rubio Rubin, who ended up scoring, plays for the Charleston Battery, but had some time in MLS as well. He plays up top. I love the energy and the purpose and the intent of how these guys were playing and how hungry they were, I guess, might be the right way to describe it, Big Tones. When we look at some of Guatemala's notable players, we have Oscar Santis should be in there, a goal and an assist so far in 4 matches. Their captain and the very aggressive center back, Jose Carlos Pinto. I guess one of the things that I noticed in the Canada game was that referee let a lot of physicality exist. And I feel like if that happens once again, and it just feels like it's not isolated to that game, that's just CONCACAF in general. But I feel like that might play into the strengths of Guatemala. Like they're going to use that Mike Tyson quote, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And I feel like Guatemala, metaphorically, or maybe literally, we have to wait and see, it's going to be coming out hot, right? And they're going to be trying to make it difficult for us to try to establish a rhythm, which I thought they did to pretty good effect against Canada.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I said earlier. The thing I was most impressed about Guatemala is they saw the door open, and man, they took it up another level. Canada was on their heels, man, and I felt like Canada was in that mode. Jimmy, you've been in games before where you're like, okay, I know things aren't going, but we're going to figure out how to. We'll get this done. Like, but the next guy will get it done. Like, I'm not going to get it done today. Jimmy's going to get it done. Like they got in that mode, and that's how I felt watching the game. And I was just impressed with the speed of play, the intensity they went into tackles. Obviously, the atmosphere in the stadium was benefiting them, right? And I also think there's this with the way Jesse has kind of set things up for Canada. Canada's become the team like anyone would want to beat right now. Right? They're not your likable team at the moment because of the way they're kind of portraying themselves, in my opinion. So I can see that if you were in that stadium and you were getting ready for the next game, Costa Rica and the U.S., you were probably rooting for Guatemala to win, right, in that game. Rubio Rubin, for me, when I see him play, I always have a smile. He was in my first youth national team camp. It was the 2 years before the cycle. I believe that group, he must be around 30 years old now because that was Matt Miazga's group. We were in Verona, Italy. It's the first time I put on when I first got back on the field coaching for the U20s with Tab and a bunch of other guys. He was in that first camp, and I was like, man, he was literally at that point like a man amongst boys. His quad, I never forget, his quads were like, his quads were like massive. I love watching him play. He's just a good, honest player that's had a really good career. Herrera, and again, both those guys have had caps for the U.S.
Right.
Not only at the senior level, but at the youth level. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Aaron Herrera is a guy that at one point we were talking about when he was coming up. We mentioned this during the game the other night. He was starting to be considered as a right back for the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was starting to be talked about. Okay, we need to bring him into the national team. And again, for one reason or another, it didn't work out. But these guys are enjoying some success, and I'd imagine you're going to get nothing but 120% out of these guys tomorrow night.
Yeah, no doubt. Rubio Rubin, born in Oregon. There's also another younger player that they have on their team. Born in Massachusetts, played for the Montreal. Plays for I was going to say Montreal Impact. Shout out to their
the right winger kid.
Yeah, Olger Escobar. So
where was
there's a lot of hype around him right now. Has an incredible left foot, great first touch. And so he's going to be a threat. If you give him time to pick up his head and do what he wants to do, he can pick you apart a little bit. And I actually think Rubio Rubin's movement in the box, he scored a good goal against Canada where just found himself in a good spot, got on the end of a cross and a nice header. So
that's a really nice header, by the way.
It really was.
Where's the kid? Where's the young kid Escobar from? Did you say? He
was born in Massachusetts.
Mass. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So 18 years old, plays for Montreal, and I think he's got a bright future. And I'm excited. I'm excited to watch him play just as a fan. Obviously, I hope he doesn't hurt us too much. But I do think Guatemala has done a nice job under their manager, Luis Fernando Tena, who officially signed a contract with Guatemala in December of 2021 with the intent of reaching the 2026 World Cup, this expanded World Cup, which gives them an opportunity. The 67-year-old Mexican coach has a lengthy resume. He actually helped Mexico win the gold medal in the 2012 Olympics, and also had a short stint managing Mexico. They lost 2-0 to the U.S. in a World Cup qualifier in 2014. He's had several stops in Liga MX, most recently at Juarez. This guy knows what he's doing. And what I really like, what he's trying to do here, they play on the front foot. It feels like at times all gas, no brakes. And they aren't afraid to skip midfield. You have some teams that are like, we're building up. We're going to build up from the back. We're going to build we're going to try to get every possible player to touch the ball. And they're like, we're just going to get it in the most dangerous area as fast as we possibly can. And we're going to press and we're going to try to win it back in a high area. And it's been effective. And we talked about this before with their goalkeeper. He's going to win the ball and he's just going to launch it and try to create a 1v1. Even if it's a 1v2, he's going to try to put it into a pocket of space where it looks like a 1v1 and then just get everybody high up the field. And say what you want. Yeah, it's as route one as it gets. But it can be highly effective if everybody's on the same page and thinking the same thing about how they can win that next ball, then how they can hurt the opponent from there. And that is really, for me, one of the big threats for them is they've got this goalkeeper who can just hit a 60-yard ball on a dime. And it's very similar to you, Big Tones, back in the day.
Yeah, and they're not afraid. They play in this 4-3-3 formation. Navarro's the goalkeeper, but you're right. The U.S. is going to have to be worried on any restarts that end up in the goalkeeper's hands. Right, immediately they go. Any quick play that ends up deep play when you got them pinned in, and there's a quick play in the box ends up with the goalkeeper. They want to go. At least that's what they did against Canada. I didn't watch them other than really the highlights in the earlier stages of this competition. But yeah, it's a capable side. I think the U.S. is favored. And we'll take a look at the lineup here in a second. I don't know. I'm looking at suspensions. I don't think that they have any suspensions. They got one. Nicholas Hagen, the goalkeeper in Columbus, he's got a little bit of a thigh issue. So it looks like he might not be available. Outside of that, I don't see any injuries or missing players. Rubin picked up a yellow card in the last game against Canada, but
I think he's good.
You think he is good too? Oh, actually, they would reset now. Anyway, it wouldn't matter. Yellow cards reset now, which don't get me started on that conversation. But so they're going to be full.
All right, let's take a look at their starting 11. As Big Tones mentioned, we got Navarro in goal, who is the backup to Hagen. Hagen got injured. You got Morales, Samayoa, Pinto, and Herrera. It's a very athletic, very physical back line. So whoever starts for us is gonna have to be up for it. You got Rosales and Robles sitting in the 2-6 spots. Escobar could be floating in those pockets of space. Santis, who I actually thought was a tireless worker. These guys are gonna run, and we got to be up for that part of the game, right? That facet of the game, you have to meet them where they are and hopefully exceed that. But then from there, hopefully our quality will shine through. You got Munoz on the left and then Rubin up top. Yeah, it's good. I liked what you said in the way that you described it. A very capable team and playing with house money, which you said in an earlier segment as well. So those are two dangerous combinations: capable and nothing to lose. And so, yeah, it's gonna be a good test for us in a lot of different ways. And I fear, well, I don't think that we will, but I don't want us to be looking ahead to potentially playing Mexico in the final. It seems like this team has been pretty good at focusing on
we can't look ahead.
Well,
No.
but I think there's a conversation to be had. Okay, the players can't look ahead, obviously.
Oh,
but the
we
coaching
can.
staff. But the coaching staff.
Yeah.
I wonder if you're starting to make decisions on your own starting 11 based on, like let's use Malik Tillman. That guy got kicked in probably every area of his body against Costa Rica. Is it worth? Hear me out, everybody. Hear me out. Is it worth potentially? I think you got to. If you start,
this is slippery slope right here.
I know it's a slippery slope.
Go ahead. I'm waiting for this. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, would you consider not starting a Malik Tillman? We're just playing. We got to play this hypothetical game a little bit, but knowing that you could have him sharp for the final. I mean, and he's not alone. There could be other players that could use some rest. Tim Ream's not getting any younger, right? Could you bring a McKenzie in potentially, who got a crack at it before, or another one of the center backs? Is that something that you would? I mean, the coaching staff would be, I think, naive not to at least give that some consideration, right, Tones?
How do you spell no? The answer, no. You shouldn't consider it. Or can we hashtag it and capitalize it? It might, I don't think you can. What I do think you can do is if you're up 2 or 3 goals, then maybe you yank them. Well,
that goes without saying. Yeah, that goes
maybe.
That's
but
easy.
no, I don't, because then you're doing just what we said you couldn't do. Right, you're looking ahead to the finals, and I don't know that this team is good enough to look ahead to the finals.
That's
and fair. And then I would couple this with the fact that we're saying we're kind of agreeing that this team isn't good enough to look ahead to the finals. Nor do I think any team is. By the way, did you see Man City lose last night? Like incredible. Yeah. Then you're now taking one of the 2 players that have been your 2 brightest spots, right? And for me, Chris Richards and Tillman have been the 2 brightest spots. Who's that? Ted says, "No, Jimmy, stop." He said, "Oh, you're getting a lot of no's."
I'm just throwing it out there.
You're getting a lot of no's, Jimmy.
I didn't say that's what I would do. I'm just saying
I know.
We should have that conversation. I just want to make that very clear. I'm just saying we should have the conversation.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. And then you're taking arguably your best player off the field that got you to this point.
Right. So let me say it like this. I've now turned this podcast in this moment right now to me and Tones are the coaches, and we're asking our whole coaching staff, which is the chat. And now I'm getting yelled at in the chat with all caps. It's just a conversation.
Look, tell me like you're the head coach. Tell me we're in a meeting. Tell me I'm your assistant coach.
That's what I'm saying. We should have.
Tell me exactly how you would present it to me.
Well, the way that I would present it is I don't even know if I would, because the guy's been like, if we're using Malik Tillman, he's been such a catalyst for us. So obviously what you'd have to take into consideration is you'd have to talk to your therapist or your PTs and your that side of it, right? To understand where he's at, how much. Nobody's at 100% at this point in the tournament. So where is he at? There, I would start there, understand what I'm working with. And I would try to get that evaluation for everybody.
I'm writing my answer down for you here.
Yeah, that's fine. But I'll just take that into consideration. But then obviously you go talk to the player. How are you feeling? And you have understand where they're feeling emotionally and physically. And he's obviously going to want to go, and we want him to go. So you just try to get all the information that you can, and then you sit down and go, okay, what's the best move for us moving forward. I'm specifying only on Malik Tillman right now.
Can I show you my answer?
Well, I already know what your answer is going to be. Big NO. Red dot. I don't listen. I just threw this up. This is a conversation that I think you should have. Like, it's a healthy conversation to play both sides, right? You got to be as well-rounded as possible. I'm not suggesting that you should do it. I'm just saying you should have the not to leave them out, but I think you should have a conversation about managing your team and where they are. And yes, I agree with you that ultimately we got to get to the final no matter what. We're playing our best players. And that's it. I don't care how tired they are.
Well, I really think that I really think the thing is to get the job done early if you can. Although we know these games, like to think you're going to be up 2 or 3-0 is probably unrealistic.
And we haven't managed games well anyway, Tony.
Yeah. I just think it's a hard discussion. At the end of the games, I think it's an easy discussion, right? Where you've got a little bit of leeway, you got a couple goal lead, and then I think that's where you manage, not on the front end. And that's probably what I would say. Hey, coach, I'd say Tillman's been our best player here. Yeah, he got banged up, but what tournament are you going to go in and play 4 games and not think you're going to have guys banged up? Like, this is the time. Like, the other part I would go, and Jimmy, we came into this tournament with question marks about Malik Tillman. If he's hurting a little bit, let's see if he can fight through this, right? This is our time to see if Tillman can fight through this. That's probably how I would approach your question in a serious manner. Like, okay, this is a time for him to kind of step up here and fight through whatever it is. So his ankle's banged up. I don't know if his ankle's banged up. I'm making this up. But let's see if he's okay to play in this one. That's how I probably would answer you.
Yeah. The guy got the shit kicked out of him. He got kneed in the head. These are just a normal.
But I like it, man. He kept getting up, man. He did. Up. Yeah.
And I like too that he missed the penalty, and he just keeps playing, right? And I think that's a leadership quality. You don't always have to say something, right? It's more about body language. All right, that's disappointing. I'm still going to find my way into the game and make a difference. He ended up having an assist to Arfsten right after halftime. So yes, ultimately, I'm not going to not have Malik Tillman in it. So I triggered everybody in the chat. So fair play to me. One. The score line is me 1, the chat 0 right now.
By the way, if I could have written 3 red dots like quicker, I would have had 3 just for the record. I didn't have enough time.
I mean, the changes that we discussed were probably in the recap show with maybe somebody in for Luca de la Torre and then Tolkin over Arfsten are probably the changes we're going to end up seeing or potentially going to end up seeing. But I do think there was a conversation as to you have to manage the guys that maybe aren't at 100%, and even though those guys at 80 could still be better than what your options are elsewhere. So it's worth having the conversation, and I love everybody getting fired up. And that just means you care. We all care about the team, and we want them to do well. All right, we're going to take our next break and call what you want. When we come back, we'll continue to dive into the U.S. team, and most notably, we have a new poll up. Make sure you vote here during the break. Who should be the starting striker for this game? Patrick Agyemang, or are we going to see Damian Downs in the semifinal of a Gold Cup in his first ever start for the U.S.? We'll have to wait and see. Come back and join us.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
All right, welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Conrad Dino alongside Big Tones. No Chuck Wagon this time around. So also, I had some Brian White erasure there before the break. The poll was Agyemang, Damian Downs, Brian White. Sorry, Brian White. I value you, but you haven't made the most of this opportunity during Gold Cup, unfortunately. Not that you've had a ton of minutes, but and the friendlies weren't great either. Okay, so who are you starting? It's got to be Agyemang. Big Tones, you got to go Agyemang, no?
I'm just kind of writing it down here as we were in the break. I would think it's Agyemang. I don't. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said for 4 games. I want to see Damian Downs play. I like the short time we saw. I liked his movement. He's been in there a couple times with 2 strikers. I don't know if he plays that way at his club. It didn't look comfortable between him and Patrick Agyemang.
It's,
I would like to see him play, but if I was a betting man, I would bet that Patrick Agyemang starts this game for Pochettino.
yeah, well, I think there's something to be said too about consistency and understanding, because Patrick Agyemang has been in that position throughout the tournament. You have a really good idea of where he's going to be, where he's going to set up shop, where those passing lanes are, where he likes to pick up the ball. And not to say you couldn't pick that up quickly with Damian Downs, but there is something to be said for that continuity in your starting at 11. And I actually thought there were some really good sequences of play where Agyemang got himself in a good spot, good quick layoffs, and then we got to spray the ball over to the other side of the fields, or ended up leaving to a shot or a goal. I think Max Arfsten's goal, did it lead with Agyemang or not lead with it? But I think he was part of that sequence where it went in, back, and then through, right?
Didn't he drop it back at the top of the box on that goal?
I think he did, or there were a couple other sequences that I might be getting confused with, but that were very similar. And so I love that part of his game. Now I still want to see a little bit more composure in and around the box when the ball's at his feet, but he's still a handful. He has this incredible skill and ability to, if he doesn't even win the first ball, he somehow, I don't know how, he's just so long that he ends up winning the second one for us and kind of digging it out of a tough situation. And that allows us to transition with more numbers, right? That allows other players to get into the attack in a more meaningful way and run with purpose, as opposed to Tones. We've played enough to know that sometimes you play a ball up top and that player will hold the ball up sometimes. So you don't know whether to run 100% to go support the play, because if we lose it right away, then you got to run 100% to get back, right? And so there's all that kind of iffy, not sure if this is going to happen or not. So the more consistent that Agyemang can be, or any of our strikers can be, in holding up that ball that allow us to run with more intent, makes such a big difference in terms of how dangerous we're going to be on that side of the ball.
I think the most consistent, trying to think, Josie was really consistent when you're playing the ball into his feet, because he could hold defenders off. The other one that was pretty consistent in the way he did things was Brian McBride. When the ball was in the air,
that's a gold standard. You're talking about the gold standard.
Yeah, but I mean, no, but I think it's obviously someone that people would know. When the ball was in the air, what did instinctively people do? They ran off of him because they thought he was going to win the head ball, because 99% of the time he won the head ball. With Josie, when it went into his feet, you kind of ran underneath him, right? Because you knew he was going to hold it off and drop and spin and turn. Here's a question I was thinking about yesterday, Jimmy, about Agyemang. What role? I don't want to lead you because I know my answer. I'm trying to get your answer. What is the if Patrick Agyemang makes the roster, what role do you see ultimately him playing for the U.S. men's national team? And then I'll tell you why I'm asking you the question. With my answer, I don't know what your answer is.
This is everybody being healthy.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he makes the World Cup roster next year. He's in the 26. What role do you see? Why are you bringing Patrick Agyemang to the World Cup?
Well, because we've seen him come in, or at least be used in a two-striker system, right? I'm kind of using Damian Downs as an example here. So he could almost be the Damian Downs of the Gold Cup and the World Cup, which is, hey, we need something to happen. We need another bigger body up top. We need to, because you know how the ends of games, if this happens at all levels, even against the best teams, if you are up a goal, there's just a natural tendency to drop off a little bit. So that could really benefit what I think Agyemang could come in and help to do. So in the 80th minute, 75th minute, we're down a goal. You bring him on to be a second striker next to Balogun or Pepe or whoever it may be. And just like, we need you to get on and crosses and on set pieces and to be an absolute menace up top. You got to be winning balls, first balls, whatever it is. You have this physical profile that we need to take advantage of. And whether the final shot or laying it off to somebody else, that's your role. So if he gets brought onto the team, that's what I see happening. I don't expect him to start if the other guys are healthy. But I do think that there could be a role for him. Now, if Damian Downs blows up over the next year in the Bundesliga, I mean, he's a big kid that is long as well, right? And has somewhat of a not exact player profile, but they have some similarities, and he could also be utilized in a similar way. So it's kind of those two guys battling it out, I think, to be that kind of number 3 striker potentially.
Yeah, so similar to me, although I don't see him as a second, like a guy that could play with two strikers, because he's going to occupy two center backs. I see him as a guy you bring on if the game opens up a little bit, legs are a little bit tired from defenders. Like, think about it. He's a big, strong presence. You're a center back. You just played 70 minutes in the heat
I wouldn't want to
against
see him
someone
come on the field. Yeah,
exactly right. So the reason I ask you is, why not then see him in that role? We saw him in Nations League in that role for a little bit, but in this tournament, in a tournament format, why are we not seeing a little bit more of him in that role? Because I don't see Patrick Agyemang as a starter for this team at the World Cup. I just don't see it. I do see him.
That's easy. I agree.
I do see him making the World Cup roster because of all the things you just talked about. So why not start Damian Downs and let him run at players and run behind? Because it seems like he likes to run in channels, right? In behind players. And then in 70th minute, when guys are a little bit tired, because that's the role you're going to bring him for. Right. I get starting him for a while. You got to give the guy minutes. You got to get him used to the national team level. It was a thought that went through my head. I'm like, okay, well, we kind of have a profile, right, of Patrick Agyemang. I get it. Some people will like him. Some people won't like him. I understand that. But I was trying to think, like, because if you're going to make this team, there has to be a reason, because I think probably half this team, maybe a little bit more, is set. But there's got to be a reason you bring a guy like him that raw, that has that little international experience, but is growing. That's the beautiful part about it. It's growing. But I needed the reasons why I would put him in because eventually we're going to be asked to put 26 names on a piece of paper. We're going to do it. Pochettino's piece of paper is the only one that matters, but we're going to be asked to do it. And you have to have a reason for every guy you put on that roster.
No, and I love that we're having this discourse. I would say what's interesting is would you argue that Agyemang is better when he's got room to run, right?
100%. That's the role. Yeah.
Okay, but in the 80th minute of a game where we need to chase a goal, he's not going to have.
I don't think he's chasing a goal. I actually think he's chasing the other guy. The other team is chasing a goal. He goes in and he's pressuring, and now there's space to run in. That's where I see his role.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, okay.
That's an interesting twist on that, because if we're playing against a team in a low block, I don't think we actually get to utilize what makes him special
when they're in a low block. When
the other team's in a low block. And I say this because I don't think Agyemang has demonstrated that he can create his own shot, right? That he can create enough space to get his own shot. We've seen it once. What did he? Now, obviously, the goalkeeper, who did he get past? Was it Haiti? Did he have a nice touch around the Haitian goalkeeper and then touched it in? I think that's right. The Haiti goalkeeper did a nice job of making that a little bit easier for him, but I thought he had a hell of a finish.
Yeah, it was Tolkin assist. I have it here. It was Tolkin the ball around the corner. Yeah,
but like in tight spaces, I don't see him like, we can name a handful of players, right off the tip of our tongue that around the world and that are so good at somehow getting the shot off, and I just don't see that being part of his game. And so against the low block, I wonder, but I agree with you that if we have a lead, even though it feels somewhat counterintuitive that we wouldn't bring on more defensive, sub replacements to come in.
You don't just bring on all defenders. When you have a lead,
I agree. I really like that a lot. That's why.
Yeah. Let me throw this at you.
Big Tones.
Let me throw this at you with Agyemang. If you have a game where balls are being swung in the box and there's a lot of aerial duels, do you bring him in the game? I don't see him, Jimmy, as a dominant header in the box.
Yeah.
I don't see that that's part of his game, at least not yet. That doesn't mean he can't develop it, but I don't see, and someone's going to go, well, he scored a head ball against Orlando. I get it. Like, he has scored goals with his head, but he's not a dominant force in the box for me. Actually, I think Ricardo Pepi has that quality, although I think Pepi's going to be the guy starting if he is fully healthy. He's got that quality. I don't see Agyemang as a dominant header in the box.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a good conversation. I like that. Okay.
I love going though, Jimmy. I really do. Like, I get it. He doesn't have all the experience in the world, and I can understand if someone like pukes over the idea. Like, no, I don't like him. He's not the flashiest player. He's a little bit sloppy. He's unorthodox in some of his movements. He loses a couple balls. But like I'm looking at it and go, like, there's a couple of qualities that he has. Like if he just refined, we always talk about the things he doesn't have or a player doesn't have. How about if he refines the qualities that he does have? Right?
Yeah, right.
And get
right.
those better and then work on the other ones, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's a great conversation to have for sure. Okay, so speaking of this conversation, did you notice, and this goes for everybody that's listening and or watching, did you notice or feel like our team got a little bit tired against Costa Rica and that we waited a little bit too long to maybe make substitutions? Was that just a me thing, or were you feeling the same way, Big Tones?
I think we were talking about it right during the show. Like we were kind of laying down some substitutions, and I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at all the games. I don't know if you remember all the games. Like, is Pochettino been late with some substitutions?
Well,
has he been?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. We got up this chart, and he actually waited till the 78th minute against Costa Rica to make a sub. And that was Damian Downs coming in for Luca de la Torre. And then 5 minutes later, Jack McGlynn came in for Diego Luna, and Tolkin came in for Arfsten. And then later on the 90th minute, Brian White came in for Agyemang. I just felt like
it was like a penalty kick one.
The team looked a little. Yeah, exactly right. The team just looked a little bit tired. I wondered why we waited so long. You were right. We talked about it during the watch along. Again, we're doing a watch along tomorrow for the Guatemala game. So come back and join us here on the Glosso America YouTube channel or the Glosso Network, wherever you want to watch. Would be great with us. Yeah. So he makes late adjustments. I think all but 2 subs were made in the 70th minute or later. The most sub player was Jack McGlynn. He's been involved in all 3 or most subbed in general, involved in all 3 initial group stage subs. He definitely trusts his starters. That goes without saying. That's clear with the lack of rotation in general, regularly playing everybody over 60 minutes. And so do we need to look at this? Because this is part of the art of management, right? Or identifying when the team needs a little boost. We were up 2-1 against Costa Rica, and we didn't make a sub until after it got to 2-2. Maybe there could have been a sub there that could have helped us, continue to manage the game in a positive way, to see out that 2-1 result, as opposed to allowing it to get to penalties where anything can happen, Big Tone. So this is one area of the game that I think we need to put under a microscope a little bit, because I hearken back to the 2019 Champions League final. I was there. It was Tottenham versus Liverpool, and
oh damn, you went way back. I got to look it up.
It was my first ever Champions League final. I was so excited to be there, and the game was a bit of a dud. Sissoko got that handball penalty called on him in the first 2 minutes, and Liverpool just set up shop and killed the game off. But he started Harry Kane in that game when Harry Kane wasn't entirely healthy and left Lucas Moura out. Yeah, but Harry Kane wasn't fired. Listen, I understand you want to be loyal to your best player. Lucas Moura was the hero. Didn't start him, and I thought, just obviously you're going to be. And I'm sure he's kicking himself for that stuff too. But I feel like there's been a somewhat of a history with his substitution patterns, and now I feel like we should put it into under the microscope a little bit as to, is he making the right decisions at the right time? Should he have gone a little bit earlier, especially in this last game against Costa Rica?
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the bucket of, like, we don't have enough of a sample size, and plus we don't know what he's doing, right? Is he looking at some of these guys to say, who can I stretch? Who can I not stretch? I know he wants to win the game. We've had managers over the last couple of years. I remember, Berhalter getting hammered for his substitution patterns too. I'm looking at that champion, Lucas Moura. So if that's the Champions League when he came in the semifinals and scored the goals, right? But again, back to the.
I'm sorry. That's just I'm giving one game. I'm sure there's a bigger.
But that goes back to the conversation. Like, that was Lucas Moura's role, right? Was as a substitute coming on and scoring goals. So I'm going to be in the. I'm going to monitor this now that you brought it up category.
Okay. I appreciate that. We're monitoring it, everybody. Because I just feel like we could have made a move that would have helped potentially solve some problems in that identification. But yeah, to your point, I went on HQ, CBS Sports HQ, and they wanted me to give a grade for Mauricio Pochettino so far.
What'd you give it?
I gave it a C because I did because we lost 4 straight games. And that's the first time that's happened.
Oh, this was his full tenure, not just the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought the Gold Cup.
Tenure,
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I gave it a C, but I said, listen, and I kind of echoed my dear friend Tony Meola here, that we can't really give him a grade until we see what happens in the World Cup, because that's what matters the most. And all of this, ultimately, however we want to slice it up, is still preparation for the World Cup. And the magic is in the prep. So he's doing things and making decisions that are all based on what he wants to see unfold, or the puzzle he's trying to put together for the World Cup. And that is where we ultimately are going to judge him. So whatever grade we give him now, it still feels fluid, obviously, and doesn't feel fair, because there's a method to the madness, or we obviously hope that there is, and that's going to lead to success next summer. So yeah, he can sleep easy at night knowing I gave him a C, but there's a huge asterisk next to that. I can't say that word very well, because ultimately what matters is next summer. And so whatever decisions he's making now will make a lot more sense in a year's time. That's how I see it. And ultimately, I'm echoing the sentiments that you've said before, Big Tones.
Yeah, look. Well, how do you judge every manager in the world? And we don't really judge our managers in the U.S. Unlike in Europe, they'll judge them in the Euros and they'll judge them at the World Cup. Right? That's the 2 places you get judged. We don't really judge our managers here at the Gold Cup in our regional competition,
unless we lose to somebody we shouldn't.
Yeah, which
like Guatemala in the semifinals.
But you had said like we've been in this position 17 out of the 18 times or something like that at the beginning, right? Yeah. So, but we don't really. We do. I like the fact that we were involved in the last Copa America because we held our manager accountable for the results that happened. But in Europe, it's a little bit different. In CONMEBOL, it's a little bit different. Here, the manager is judged basically on the World Cup, right, and how they do, and that's always been the case. Probably always going to be the case unless we're consistent participants in the Copa America, because it's another way for us to judge us against ourselves against really good teams. I hope that happens, but yeah, he's going to be judged in 10 months time, 11 months time, and how he does in that tournament.
I want to circle back. Do you agree with my C right now for his tenure? I mean, so the way they phrased it was like $6 million a year, $6 million a year, big name. Yeah. We've lost 4 straight games. I was like, yeah, my expectations were that we'd
by the way,
Ivis
doesn't like when you say manager. You got to say head coach. He doesn't like that. He's yelling at us. No.
Sorry. U.S. men's national team head coach.
I hope that's not the sword we're dying on that one. It's literally his title, Jimmy. It's literally his title. Jeez, it's head coach.
All right, so let's get into our projected 11. We'll do some predictions, and let's get out of here. So we expect this to be our projected 11. You got Matt Freese in goal. John Tolkin, who also won the poll, 73% to Max Arfsten's 27%. Starting at left back, Tim Ream and Richards going to keep rolling out the center back pairing. Freeman, who we haven't really talked about much, but holding it down, the 20-year-old there on the right side. Adams and Berhalter as our 6s. We got De La Torre in, though I think there could be movements in that space, but only one change ultimately. Luna on one side, Tillman on the other, and Agyemang up top. So the only change that we have in our projected 11, based on the sources and insight that we're getting, is that Tolkin will most likely get the start over Arfsten. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Also, we talked about McGlynn coming in for De La Torre and putting Tillman back in the middle of the field and McGlynn on the right wing, right? Didn't we have that discussion internally as well?
Yeah. Which I think could be a real possibility. We'll have to wait and see, though.
Look, I wouldn't mind seeing Tolkin in there. There's going to be a change or two, although I say Pocha showed that he's not hell-bent on making a bunch of changes, right? So one or two changes maximum is what I see in that roster, Jimmy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now I just wonder, well, the game's going to dictate what the sub pattern is. So just something to keep in mind since we talked about it a little bit earlier. Okay, predictions, everybody. What do we say?
Before you get there, when you get your first job,
yes,
are you going to put in there head coach or manager? Which one? You're gonna ask him to call you head coach? I think I'm going manager.
They're
Yeah.
gonna call me profe.
No, not what they'll call you, because in Italy you call the manager, you call him Mister. Mister. Like Mister. Yeah, he's.
Am I gonna make the players call me something?
What's your title when I go on a website? What is it gonna say? It's gonna say Jimmy Conrad is
head coach. It'll say head coach because we're in the States.
I think if I ever get the chance, I'm going manager.
You going manager?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because you're managing the situation. You know, there's something nice about that for sure.
So, by the way, it's a big if. It's all capital letters. Right now.
All right, prediction time. I'll go first, Big Tones. I'm gonna say it's gonna be tighter than we want. And Guatemala is going to be up for it. Nothing to lose. I think they're going to get a goal in there somehow. And then, but we win 2-1. I think we win this one 2-1. It's not going to be as comfortable as I want, but we're going to get the result. And I'm excited about us booking a ticket to the final. How about you? Same?
I wish you would have let me go first, but I'm going to go the most boring score in world football.
1-0.
It's going to be 2-1 is when you don't know, you pick 2-1, although that's where I was going to go anyway. So I'm not going to change. But I'm with you. It is not going to be comfortable.
Yeah, there's nothing comfortable about this. All right, we're going to call it a show. But as a reminder, we're doing a watch along live on the Glosso Network and on this very channel tomorrow. So come back and join us for that. It should be a lot of fun. We'll kick off at 6:45 p.m. Eastern, 3:45 p.m. Pacific. We'll give you a little 15-minute pregame show, maybe 20 minutes because it takes a little while to get kickoff going. We'll break down the lineup and anything else that we have on either team. And then we'll get into the game and obviously have our fabulous recap show as always, especially when Chuck will be with us, especially when he's tired because then he gets triggered real easy when he's tired. So we'll be excited.
Hopefully he fixes the air conditioner.
Yeah, he didn't have any air conditioning, which is our favorite part. All right, that's it. Thanks for hanging out with us as always. And we'll see you tomorrow for U.S. versus Guatemala. Later.